They stood there like they'd never seen it before. My mom tilted her head, lips pressed tight, reading the little label under the frame. My dad stood stiff, hands behind his back like he was inspecting a floor beam. The red letters at the bottom said one word, sold. They didn't flinch at the price, $9,650, but they looked longer than I expected. What they didn't know, what nobody in that gallery knew except me, was that 5 months earlier, they'd tossed that same painting into their kitchen trash like it was a takeout menu. My name's Corbin Hale. I'm 32, and I paint portraits out of a narrow second-floor studio in Lawrenceville, Pittsburgh. That night, I stood in the back of the room while the couple who raised me admired a painting they'd buried under coffee grounds and paper plates. No label called them out, no name on the tag but mine. But the wall text told the story. Gifted to family, rejected, recovered. Quick note. Before listening, share which city or country you're watching from, and let's continue. They didn't know I'd kept a photo. Taken the next morning, one hand holding my dish, the other snapping a shot of the sealed wrapping poking up through the trash. They didn't know I'd saved screenshots from a group chat I wasn't even part of anymore. Messages telling my dad to move the gift before morning, and my mom laying out the lie they'd use if I asked questions. And Kellen, my sister, putting the final nail in it. He won't ask. He never does. I didn't show up at the opening for revenge. I came to see what that painting looked like in a room where it mattered. I wanted to feel what it meant for the work to survive the people it was made for. Back when I painted it, I was trying to make one honest gesture they couldn't ignore. A gesture that said, look, I'm not lost. I'm not a kid with a sketch pad. I'm not a joke. Because for them, I'd always been the creative one, the one who draws, like I was waiting tables between failed auditions. Never mind that folks in Shadyside and Fox Chapel paid deposits up front. Never mind that I made deadlines, sent proofs, collected full balance before delivery. My clients saw a working artist. My parents still saw a phase. That painting, sharp lines, quiet depth, every inch considered, was never a phase. They tossed it anyway, and I let them think it disappeared, until now. My dad, Marlon Hale, ran his own emergency home repair service, just him and 2 trucks. He fixed burst pipes, storm leaks, power outages, stuff that couldn't wait till morning, the kind of jobs where your phone rings at 3 in the morning and you grab a flashlight before asking questions. That was his badge of honor. In his mind, real work made noise. It left calluses and got you dirty. Anything else? That was a hobby. My mom, Janelle, ran the front office at a dental clinic in Bethel Park, and you'd swear she was guarding national security. She tracked birthdays, appointments, church gossip, and patient allergies like lives depended on it. Her voice never broke in public. Her lipstick was never smudged, and her rules were simple. Reputation is currency, and you never spend it stupid. Then there was Kellen. She was 28, clean-cut, polished, and already on track for some executive audit role at one of those companies that sponsor charity runs and have words like solutions in the name. She wore tailored blazers in July, and her email signature had more letters behind her name than a hospital wing. I wasn't jealous, not in the classic sense. I didn't want her job or her life. I just got sick of being the setup to the punchline. At dinners, my mom would ask Kellen about the firm, like she was talking to royalty, then turn to me and say, "Still painting?" Like it was a hobby I picked up from YouTube. Once she actually followed it with, "That's nice," while passing me the breadbasket, like she was patting a toddler on the head for finger painting. When I graduated with my Bachelor of Fine Arts, full honors, dean's list, top of my class, my dad showed up after the ceremony was almost over. Said he got called for a backup sump pump failure out in Baldwin. He didn't ask what he missed. He just said, "I kept the customer happy," like that was the win, and everyone nodded like he was the hero of the story. That was the thing in our house. Being useful always beat being excellent. You could break your back chasing something meaningful, but if it didn't make money fast or solve a problem with a socket wrench, it didn't count. The only person who ever made me feel like my work mattered was Nadine, my grandmother on my dad's side. She painted in oils, same as me. Quiet, focused, never chasing attention, but always treating the canvas like it deserved her time. Her place smelled like linseed and dust. The good kind of dust. The kind that means something's being made. When she died in 2018, she left me a box of her old paints and a note written on the back of a grocery receipt, folded 4 times and sealed with masking tape. I kept that note taped to the inside of my cabinet, above my brushes. It said, "Art doesn't ask permission. It earns its place." I read that line every time I finished a piece, especially after one of those family dinners where my name was barely said out loud. They thought I was playing dress-up. So I built a business without them, 6 years of clients, invoices, deadlines, and deposits that cleared while they acted like I was still doodling on napkins. And I kept painting, not for them, for the people who paid and never once asked if it was real. The idea came to me while I was wrapping up a client portrait for a couple in Fox Chapel, a 50th anniversary, pastel background, antique frame. It looked fine, but it felt shallow. All styling, no soul. My parents' 34th was coming up that September, and I couldn't shake the thought that this time I should do more than sign a card and slap a bow on a bottle. I wanted to give them something that could shut down the noise, a painting they couldn't wave off, something that said, "I see how you want to be seen, and I can make it real." So I started with an old framed photo from the hallway by their guest bathroom. One of those stiff formal shots from back when they were younger, dressed up, linked at the arm. It wasn't artistic, but it was proud, posed like they were already someone else's example of success. Then I took new references. Quietly. At Sunday dinner, I angled my phone, caught them talking to guests, caught the little signs. My mom smoothing her skirt. My dad checking the room like he owned it. I didn't ask for poses. I didn't make it a thing. I just watched, the way a painter does. I stretched a 26 by 34 canvas and laid down gesso, thick and smooth, while a box fan pushed warm air across the room. I worked late at night, after commission deadlines, after dishes, after real life. That's when the honest stuff shows up. I wasn't painting for money this time, but I still counted every minute. 138 hours. I kept track because that's what a professional does. I used Nadine's oils on purpose. They were soft, slow-drying, stubborn in the best way. The box still smelled like her cabinet, wood and dust and turpentine. I didn't tell anyone I was using them. That was just for me. I painted my mom's posture straight, her chin a little lifted. I gave my dad the stance he always used at job sites, shoulders back, one arm crossed while the other pointed out toward a problem that needed solving. I didn't exaggerate. I didn't flatter. I painted them how they wanted the world to see them. But I put one thing in that no one else would catch. Nadine's brooch, oval-shaped blue stone in the center, worn at the collar. My mom used to borrow it on holidays when Nadine was still alive. After she passed, I never saw it again. So I painted it there, careful and small, pinned just right. That was the knife. Not cruel, just sharp enough to be noticed if you knew where to look. When it was done, I wiped down the walnut frame with mineral oil and made sure every corner was clean. Then I wrote a letter. Not some long, dramatic thing, just the truth. I explained the oils, the hours, the choices. I told them I made it personal because family should mean more than convenience. And I signed my name like I was signing a contract. I folded the letter in thirds, sealed it with painter's tape, and tucked it inside the wrapping under the ribbon. Not for presentation, for permanence. In my head, I pictured them unwrapping it at night, alone in the kitchen. Maybe my mom would run her fingers over the surface. Maybe my dad would actually read the letter. And maybe they'd finally see what I'd spent my whole life trying to prove. I wasn't playing. I was making something that lasted, and they'd have to look straight at it. The night of the party, their backyard was strung up with warm lights and folding chairs. The catering trays were already set on 2 long tables near the garage, and I could smell barbecue and roasted vegetables from the driveway. My mom had lined up bottles of wine and sparkling juice and color-coded ice buckets, like the label on a drink meant more than the person holding it. I got there early, just like I planned. No big entrance, no waiting for attention. I placed the wrapped portrait upright against the side table where the other gifts were stacked. Boxed wine, 2 restaurant gift cards, a pair of new towels with their initials embroidered in cursive. I angled my painting so it faced the room, not screaming for spotlight, just waiting to be seen. The crowd rolled in steady. Church couples, neighbors with stories about driveway repairs, 2 of my dad's old clients who always spoke like they were trying to be heard in a warehouse. Then Kellen showed up, right on cue, heels clicking, arms full of glossy shopping bags with gold tissue peeking out like confetti. She leaned in and kissed Mom on the cheek and said loud enough for the front row to hear. I went with something classic this time, figured you deserved it. When it was time for gifts, Kellen made sure she went first. She pulled out an engraved silver bracelet for Mom, delicate script, probably a Bible verse, and a matching silver watch for Dad that looked like it came from a showroom window. She explained every choice like she was presenting a case file. Elegant but functional, custom etching, water-resistant. My mom looked like someone had handed her a crown. She turned her wrist under the light, eyes shining, and said, "Oh, Kellen, this is just so thoughtful." My dad actually stood up and shook her hand like she'd landed him a contract. Then my mom looked around and called out, "Corbin, you brought something too, didn't you?" Her voice had that forced cheer baked in, the one she used at church potlucks when asking a kid about their science project. I stepped forward, picked up the painting, and unwrapped it slowly. For a second, you could feel the air change. Not gasps, just silence. the kind that comes when nobody's sure if they're supposed to clap. My mom said, "Oh, that's very nice," with the same exact tone she used once for a potholder someone crocheted her. My dad nodded once, eyes already drifting toward the food table. Nobody asked a thing. Not about the brooch, not about the oils, not about the time. One guy near the back snapped a quick photo and moved on like he was just documenting the party. Then Mom leaned the painting against the side table and adjusted it like it was a folding chair she wasn't sure where to store. The letter stayed sealed. The wrapping stayed tucked beneath it, untouched. No one asked what it meant. No one asked what I meant. The music started back up. Someone cut the cake. And the portrait just sat there, silent, waiting, dismissed. So I stood there for one long minute. Then I walked out to the edge of the patio, grabbed a drink, and let the smile fall off my face. The next morning, I realized I'd left one of my ceramic serving dishes behind. Handmade, deep red glaze, not the kind of thing I wanted sitting out by someone's back door. I texted my mom about it, and she replied like everything was fine. "We're at church. Let yourself in if you need to." Their place was quiet when I pulled up. I used the key they never asked for back and stepped into the kitchen. It smelled like old coffee and sweet barbecue sauce. My dish was there by the sink, washed and dried like someone had made a point to handle it properly. For half a second, it felt normal. Then I turned toward the trash can. The lid was off. A stack of stained napkins and half-crushed cups sat on top. And there, shoved down face first in the bin like it was a pizza box, was the wrapped painting. Corners pushed in, seal cracked but still hanging on. The envelope with my letter was still tucked under the ribbon, unopened, untouched, like even reading it would have taken too much effort. I didn't touch it. I didn't say a word. I just stood there holding my dish, frozen in place, breathing shallow like the silence might break if I moved wrong. My chest locked up tight. My jaw clicked. My throat closed like it was trying to choke the reaction back before it could make a sound. I didn't rage. I didn't storm into the hallway or flip the bin or scream into the ceiling like I wanted to. I froze, like some part of me was still waiting for it to make sense, like maybe if I stood still long enough they'd walk in and say it was all a mistake, but it wasn't. I pulled out my phone and snapped one photo. Not for revenge. Not yet. I needed the proof. I needed something solid to hold later when my brain tried to convince me I was exaggerating or being too sensitive or blowing things out of proportion. That photo said, "No, you saw what you saw. This happened." I put my dish under my arm, locked up behind me, and drove back into the city with both hands clenched on the wheel like they were holding something together. Over the next couple weeks, my mom left 2 voicemails and 3 check-in texts. I didn't respond. I painted commissions like a robot. Faces, pets, homes, all of it on time, all of it good enough to pay the bills. Rent still needed paying, even if my pride had been snapped clean in half. Then my landlord started dropping hints. Nothing direct. Just little phrases like, "If the building changes hands, and you'll be the first to know." It was enough to tell me what was coming. So I shifted focus. I didn't have the luxury of just being hurt anymore. Now, I had to survive. I was picking out sliced turkey at the deli counter when I heard someone say my name in that cheerful church lady tone that always means they're about to say something fake nice. I turned and there was Dottie Keene, floral blouse, pearls, her cart half full with fingerling potatoes and boxed pudding. She leaned in like we were in on something together and said, "Your parents just loved that anniversary picture you ordered online." I blinked. "I'm sorry?" She smiled like she was giving me a compliment. "The portrait. Janelle was saying at coffee last week that it came from one of those custom portrait sites. She said you dabble a bit, but this one was done professionally. Looked just like them." My chest went cold. Not hot, cold. Not shock. Recognition. They weren't just burying it. They were repackaging it for resale. I didn't correct her. Not in the aisle. Not with deli guys slicing meat behind me. I just nodded once, finished my order, and walked out of there with my stomach twisting like I'd swallowed a screw. They weren't just ignoring the painting now. They were erasing me from the story entirely. And the worst part? It was smooth. Practiced. Like they'd said it enough times that it didn't even sound like a lie anymore. A few days later, Kellen texted that she was dropping off some leftovers from Sunday dinner. I didn't ask for them. She just showed up with a sealed Tupperware and a forced smile. "Mom wanted you to have this chicken marsala." She walked slow through my studio like she hadn't been in it a dozen times before, pretending to notice things. "I never realized how many you've finished. They're all good." Her voice caught on good like it was the best word she could safely offer. I didn't say anything. I just watched her while she circled the room like she was avoiding eye contact with every canvas. When the portrait came up, because of course it did, she said, "I didn't get a good look at it that night, but I think Mom and Dad appreciated the gesture." Her tone was flat, quick, like she was reading off a prepared line. She went to the bathroom, left her phone unlocked on the counter. It buzzed once with a group message preview. "Mom, just tell him it got damaged. Don't say more than that. I shouldn't have opened it, but I did. No passcode, just instinct." I scrolled back, thumb shaking, and landed on the night of the party. Message after message. Move Corbin's gift before morning. A photo of the wrapped painting taken by my dad with the timestamp clear. "Just in case," he'd written. Then my mom. "If he asks, tell him it got damaged." And Kellen, plain as day. He won't ask. He never does. I screenshotted all of it, every single line, then set her phone right back where it was. She came out of the bathroom, wiped her hands on her jeans, and glanced at the screen. She didn't say a word, didn't look me in the eye, just grabbed her purse and told me, "Don't wait too long to eat that." I nodded like nothing had happened, but in that moment, I understood exactly what I was dealing with. This wasn't carelessness. It wasn't heat of the moment. It was a quiet little plan. And they'd counted on me doing what I always did, keeping my head down and letting it slide. Gordon Wexler texted me on a Wednesday afternoon, short and to the point. "Coffee this week? Need to talk, not casual." That was all. No emoji, no fluff, just him. We met up at a little spot in Shadyside, corner table by the window. Gordon was 67, ex-executive, one of those guys who still wore cufflinks to brunch. He'd commissioned 3 portraits from me over the years, his wife, his dog, and a retirement gift for a colleague. And he always paid in full, ahead of schedule, no haggling. He didn't waste time. "I saw your mother at the Heisler Foundation event last weekend. She was circulating, charming, polished, but I overheard her tell someone you mostly order your pieces online now." He paused. "She said you play around with paint." I didn't say anything right away, just nodded once. He stared at me across his coffee like he was taking inventory. "Are you letting that slide?" I pulled out my phone and showed him the photo from the trash. Then the screenshots, one by one. His mouth tightened, but he didn't interrupt. When I was done, he didn't say, "That's terrible," or "I'm sorry." He said, "What's your next move?" "I don't even know if the painting still exists," I told him. Gordon's voice dropped low. "People like your parents don't throw away evidence, they hide it. Because throwing it away feels permanent. Hiding it feels like control." He told me to ask for it directly, not to pick a fight, just to test if they'd tell the truth when there was nowhere left to run. That night, I texted my mom, "Hey, I want to come grab the portrait from storage. Let me know when works." It took her almost an hour to reply. "Oh, it was ruined, Corbin. I'm so sorry. We didn't want to upset you." Word for word, the lie from the chat. I drove out there the following Saturday, same driveway, same house I grew up in. My mom answered the door in her casual Saturday mode, leggings, sweatshirt, tight smile. "You didn't have to come all the way out," she said, stepping aside like this was a normal drop-in. "I wanted to. I know it's still here," I said, calm, steady. Her mouth barely moved. "What are you talking about?" "I saw it in the trash. I saw the messages." She went still. My dad walked in from the den halfway through. "What's going on?" he asked, already squinting like he'd walked into a negotiation. I repeated it. "I saw the painting in your trash. I have screenshots. I'm not here for a fight. I want the painting." He exhaled through his nose, slow. "Look, we can make this right. I'll write a check. You delete those screenshots and we move forward. It's better for everyone." "It's not about the money," I said. "It's about the painting. If you don't want to hand it over, I'll ask Kellen to walk me through the chat history in front of both of you. Let's see how that goes." For once, my mom cracked first. She walked out of the room and came back with a plastic tote full of Christmas decorations. She pulled out the painting, still wrapped in parts of the original paper, frame chipped, bottom edge stained faint yellow from whatever had leaked in the trash. I didn't say a word. I took it in both hands and walked it out the door. She followed me out to the driveway. "Corbin," she said behind me, soft, reaching for something invisible between us. I didn't stop. I opened my trunk, laid the portrait in carefully, closed the latch, and drove off before the guilt had a chance to get dressed. I dropped the portrait off with a conservator in the Strip District, a guy named Anton, who worked out of a third-floor walk-up that smelled like varnish and lemon oil. I didn't explain the backstory. I just pointed to the faint stain along the bottom and said, "Can you stabilize it?" He glanced over the surface, nodded once, and said, "It'll run about $560, maybe a little more depending on dry time." I handed him a deposit in cash and left before I said something I'd regret. While he worked, I stripped the walnut frame off. It felt too sentimental now, like I'd been dressing up for approval that was never coming. I replaced it with a flat black gallery frame, clean, impersonal, like armor. I didn't want this piece to feel like a favor anymore. I wanted it to feel final. That same week, my landlord finally confirmed it. The building was being sold. No date yet, but the message was clear. I had maybe 2 months before my studio was someone else's liability. That put pressure on everything. How many commissions I could take, what to charge, where I'd even go next. In the middle of all that, Gordon reached out again. "There's someone I want you to meet," he said. He drove me to a converted textile factory over in East Liberty and introduced me to Bryn Monroe, a gallery owner with silver hair, square glasses, and a handshake like she was confirming a contract. Bryn didn't start with small talk. She didn't ask about the drama. She asked about my mediums, my pricing tiers, how many hours I logged per week, how soon I could turn around commissioned work. She treated it like a business because to her it was one. When she finally asked to see the painting, I unwrapped it on a low platform beneath bright overheads. She studied it for over a minute without saying a word. Then she stepped closer and pointed to the brooch on my mom's collar. "This detail, is it significant?" she asked. "It was my grandmother's," I said. "She used to wear it on holidays. My mom wore it the same way once." She nodded, just once, and that was the moment I knew she understood it wasn't just a prop. I didn't hold anything back. I told her it was an anniversary gift, that it ended up in a trash can the next morning, that I found it, recovered it, restored it. That my parents told the church it was some site commission and pretended I barely paint. I showed her the screenshots, the photo, no tears, no dramatics, just evidence. She didn't flinch. "I'm curating a show called Reclaimed," she said. "Pieces that were discarded, undervalued, overlooked. I want yours as a centerpiece. It's not just a story, it's documentation." She laid out the plan, restrained wall text, no names, no finger pointing, just enough for a viewer to feel the tension between the labor and the treatment. She looked me in the eye and said, "Price it at $9,650. Materials, time, history, that's what it's worth." Then she hit me with the question that stopped me cold. "Do you believe your labor has a number, or do you still need your parents to assign it?" I didn't answer her out loud. I just nodded and said, "I'll draft the label tonight." Later that week, Kellen started texting. Not an apology, just soft little nudges. "Mom's been overwhelmed. Dad's just from a different generation. We all handled things badly." Like she wanted the issue cleared from the ledger without ever writing the word sorry. I backed up the screenshots to an external drive and deleted nothing. Not because I was looking for a fight, but because I wasn't letting anyone rewrite this again. Opening night felt unreal. It was late winter. Snow still crusted along the sidewalks, and the gallery was packed, shoulder to shoulder with collectors, critics, artists I'd only seen in online catalogs, and regular folks who showed up because Reclaimed meant something to them. The lights were warm, the wine was flowing, and people moved slow like they didn't want to miss anything. My portrait hung dead center, perfectly lit, with a white label just below it. Title, my name, the price, and a short paragraph in crisp black print that laid out the facts. No extra drama, no one named. Just enough to make people stop and look back at the painting like they were solving an equation. Time plus effort minus respect equals what? I stood off to the side, letting it breathe. I wasn't hiding. I just didn't need to hover. Dr. Maris Voss found me about 15 minutes in. Sharp suit, mid-50s, full attention locked in. "That brooch detail," she said, nodding at the canvas. "Tell me about it." "It was my grandmother's," I told her. "My mom used to wear it the same way when she wanted to impress people." She didn't ask anything else. She just said, "I want the piece," like she was closing a deal. No haggling, no second guessing. Bryn stepped in and placed the red sold sticker beneath the label like it was routine. Like this had always been the way my work got treated. Later, Bryn leaned in and said, "Gallery cut will leave you a little over $5,000. That mattered. Between the sale and the studio move creeping closer, every dollar counted. About 20 minutes after the sticker went up, I spotted them. My parents walked in like they'd been sent there by someone else. My mom in a pale blue dress with heels she didn't wear often. My dad in the same charcoal suit he kept for weddings and funerals. They paused near the doorway, scanning the room like they'd entered a courtroom by mistake. They didn't see me at first. They saw the label. They saw the word Reclaimed. They saw sold, And then they watched other people stand in front of that painting like it mattered before anyone even mentioned the price. A man I recognized, one of the older guys from their church circle, stopped near them, glanced at the label, and said, just loud enough, "I remember that gift. You acted like it was nothing." My mom's face twitched, sharp and sudden, like someone had slapped her with a sentence. My dad didn't look over. He walked straight to Bryn, calm and low-voiced. I was close enough to hear the edge of it. "Can we talk about the label? Or maybe buying it back? It's complicated." Bryn didn't answer right away. She just turned toward me. I stepped forward. "It's not complicated," I said. "The painting isn't yours anymore, and the label's not up for edits." He opened his mouth like he wanted to argue, then shut it. I didn't stick around for a second try. I nodded once to Bryn, then walked toward the back room where the after-event was already starting with a few collectors. I didn't rush. I didn't look back. Just before I stepped through the door, I heard my mom behind me, small voice shaking, say my name like it was supposed to mean something again. I kept walking. I was done chasing people who needed to be convinced I mattered. The week after the gallery opening, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing and ringing. Voicemails, texts, missed calls. My mom cried in 3 messages and sent a 4th asking if I'd pray with her. My dad stuck to short lines. "Call your mother. We need to talk." Kellen sent a guilt trip in corporate speak. "You made your point. Did it have to be public?" I waited 4 days. Then I sent one reply. Saturday morning. Cafe Oaks in South Side. 10 sharp. 1 hour. My mom arrived first. She looked like she hadn't slept. Puffy eyes, perfect makeup trying to hold it together. "It wasn't meant to hurt you," she said, sitting down. "It just wasn't our style. People were asking questions. We didn't know what to say." I cut her off. "It wasn't about taste. You trashed a gift overnight, made up a lie, and told everyone I don't actually do the work I've spent years building. You didn't panic. You planned it." My dad showed up 8 minutes late, still holding a set of keys like he was headed to a job. He sat without ordering anything. "Look," he said, "let me cover the moving truck. I can store your canvases in the shop. If the new place needs fixing up, I'll send the crew. No charge." I leaned back. "This isn't about repairs. I'm not broken, and I'm not letting anyone buy silence or paint over what happened." They didn't speak for a second, so I kept going. "Here's how this works now. No more using my name as a punchline, no more lying about what I do, and no more pretending Kellen is the only one worth bragging about." My mom blinked hard. My dad's jaw flexed. "I'm not cutting you off completely," I said. "I'll show up for major things if I decide to, but you're not entitled to me, not my time, not my work, not the version of me that makes you comfortable." Kellen texted later that day, "I didn't think you'd actually do it." And I finally saw it for what it was. She might have left her phone unlocked on purpose. That chat thread, those screenshots, some part of her wanted it to land, just not from her mouth. Over the next few months, I painted nonstop. Dr. Voss commissioned a second piece. Gordon sent me 2 referrals. When my lease ended, I moved into a better shared studio in the Strip and didn't ask anyone for a single favor. My parents stayed in their circle, but the story didn't stay buried. Dottie told me one day at the co-op, "People look at your mother different now. It's not just about the painting. It's about how far she went to pretend it didn't matter." I still paint with Nadine's old oils. Her notes still taped inside my cabinet. It reminds me of the truth I earned. Family can be real, and still not be your people. Hold up. Can I ask you something real quick? If your own family made you feel small to protect their image, would you still keep showing up, or would you finally draw a line? If you've got the hype feature, tap it to support this video and help it reach more people. Then please subscribe and hit like. It's 1 click and it really matters. Then drop a comment saying, "Good story," or tell me what you would have done.